Hey y'all, in this video I briefly want to talk about what you need to know to avoid plagiarism. In this video I'm not planning on teaching you about plagiarism, but I just want to talk a little bit about this issue in this class and then show you the resources you have. So since the class involves writing speeches, and two of the speech assignments require you to do research and use it in your speeches, plagiarism does come up. And as you should know, plagiarism is essentially using the work of somebody else without giving them proper credit. And so you need to know how to avoid plagiarism. And I want you to know I take plagiarism very seriously. And the other thing you need to know right up front is that when you turn in work, you turn it in through an app in the website called turnitin.com. And what this app does is it takes your paper and it scans the internet and its own database for possible plagiarism. And it provides me with a report that shows me everything in your work that could have come from another source. And so if you do in fact plagiarize your speech or parts of your speech, I get a report from Turnitin.com that shows me that. It shows me the original short source. It highlights where you got the information from. So just so you know right up front, plagiarizing is very easy for me to catch, and I would prefer not to. I would prefer everybody just follow the suggestions for avoiding plagiarism and write their own speeches. But you should also know plagiarism is an academic honesty violation, and there are rules that are linked to in the syllabus that explain if you commit plagiarism, what can happen, which can include everything from a 0 for the assignment up to expulsion from CSN. And you should also know if you are found guilty of committing plagiarism, a notation is placed on your permanent transcripts that indicates to anybody that looks at them that you were found guilty of plagiarism or an academic honesty violation. So if you plan on transferring, if you plan on getting a graduate degree, I would strongly suggest you do everything you can to avoid plagiarizing. Okay, so now hopefully I've sufficiently scared you. Let me show you the resources available to you and what you need to study. First, if you scroll down to the second module about the book, Ethics in Public Speaking, and you click on the overview and outcomes for chapter 2, you can read, and essentially what this says is the primary goal of this module is to help you learn to avoid plagiarism. It asks you to read chapter 2, and then it asks you to read chapter 2, and then it says click next. So just to show you chapter 2, this is the table of contents for your book. Chapter 2, there's a section on plagiarism. It explains the different types of plagiarism. It explains the specific issues involved with plagiarism and the internet. And so it looks like about 4 pages explaining plagiarism to you. So in most cases, reading these 3 to 4 pages should be enough information to help people understand how to not plagiarize. But because this is such an important issue, if you click next, we've got a couple of plagiarism videos. The first video is a standalone video. I think it's like 12 to 14 minutes long, and it goes through explaining what plagiarism is, and it gives you some really helpful tips for avoiding plagiarism. This link, the second video, is a link to a series of short YouTube videos about understanding what plagiarism is and how to avoid it. And essentially, what I think is, if you read the book and study it, if you watch these videos and study them like they're lectures, and then if you read this information that I've provided to you, which I'll talk about in just a second, then I don't know how you would be guilty of plagiarizing something in your speeches. So, what I would say, after you've studied all of this information, and as you're beginning to work on your informative speech, if you have any questions about avoiding plagiarism, let me know. But in the end, it's your job to learn this stuff. It's my job to help you learn it. So if I don't hear from you, I'm assuming that you've read the book, you've studied the videos, you understand how to paraphrase, you understand how to cite correctly, and I'm expecting to not see plagiarism. Okay, so the one thing that the book does cover this, but it's not covered early in chapter 2, is in essays, like in APA and MLA format, you use parenthetical citations to cite your sources, but in speeches we use verbal citations. So, and you might want to make a note to yourself to come back to this when you're writing the informative speech, because it explains verbal citations, which are something that come up later in the semester. And actually, now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it, I think I'll put this in the module where you'll need it next as you start writing. But just for your information, this is a really fairly concise and straightforward example for how to verbally cite your sources. Alright, that's it for this video, and like everything else, if you have any questions, please post them in the Common Course questions discussion. Thanks.